Hello, everyone. My name is Alexa Duncan. I am a librarian in Buncombe County, North Carolina. Buncombe County Public Libraries are offering a series of online tutorials about computer basics. This is our third session, Getting Started with Email. If you haven't seen our previous two sessions, Session 2 was Introduction to the Internet. Session 1 was Getting to Know Your Computer. You may want to go back and take a look at those and then come back to this tutorial. So what is email? The word email is short for electronic mail, and those are messages that you send or receive from another person, a business, or an entity, such as, for example, the water department might send you your water bill online, or the same with the local electric department. And so those messages are sent over the internet. In order to send or receive an email message, you have to have an email address or an email account because those messages are sent from one email address to another email address in the same way that a regular paper letter is sent from one person to another person at a specific address. Okay, so let's break down what is an email address. So your email address is unique to you. No one else can have the exact same email address. So that's why pretty often you'll see email addresses that have maybe some variation of a person's name and then a number after it, because nobody can have the same email address. We can't all be bobsmith@gmail.com because there are just too many Bob Smiths out there and they all have to be unique. So let's break down these different parts of an email address. For the example I have here, this is the email address that you can use to send a question to the library. So that first part that I have in red, that's a unique name that you create. And then following that, part 2 in blue is the @ symbol. If you look on your computer keyboard, it's the @ symbol is the alternate symbol that you can type on the key that has number 2 on it. And then the third part, which here I have in green, is the name of the website or the company that provides the service. So in this instance, buncombecounty.org is the site that is providing that email service, which is why we're able to have library@buncombecounty.org. So let's say, for example, the Henderson County Library wants to have a similar address. They could also have something that says library at, but then maybe hendersoncounty.org. So, or you'll also see instead of this example where I'm talking about Buncombe County, that green part you might see at gmail.com or at yahoo.com. Those are both other examples of companies that are providing that service of hosting your email address. So often we get the question, why do I even need an email address? It's just a pain in the neck. It's something new to learn. So there are a couple of different reasons why you might want to have an email address. Fairly often now, if you want to apply for a job, you are required to do the application online. And pretty frequently, that job will follow up with you by contacting you via the email address that you put on your application. So you want to make sure that it's a real address, not something that you made up just to fill out the form, so that that employer can get in touch with you. You might also want to stay in contact with your friends and family. You might want to send messages back and forth to your aunts and uncles or grandkids, or a friend that you haven't seen for a long time but that you want to keep in touch with. And then you also might want an email address to sign up for products and services. For example, if you subscribe to the Asheville Citizen Times and you give them your email address, you can look at the online edition of the newspaper for free. Um, and then the same goes with buying a bus, train, or plane ticket, or you fairly often have to enter your email address in order to get communications about those. Or if you want to sign up for any social media account, such as Facebook, which a lot of us are on these days, it will ask you for an email address in order to make that account. Okay, so you want an email address. How do you get one? So there are a few different ways that you might be able to get an email address. First up, there are all kinds of websites that will allow you to sign up for an email address for free. Some of the most popular ones are Gmail, which is run by google.com. There is outlook.com, AOL.com, and yahoo.com. Those are There are many, many other places where you can sign up for a free email address, but those are some of the most popular ones. If you go to a school or have a job, sometimes your school or your employer might assign you an email address. So, for example, in this example I have here, we're talking about maybe a student at AB Tech. It will have some version of their name at abtech.edu. And then sometimes when you sign up for the internet, your internet provider will give you an email address. So, for example, a lot of people who have Charter internet in our area, Charter usually provides those people with um, an option for an email address. So you might see, again, some variation on their name at charter.net. Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to create an account. So I'm going to walk you step by step through how to create a free account on Gmail, which is Google's email service. So the very first thing that you want to do, you see labeled step 1, is you want to go to google.com. And in the top right-hand corner, you will see an option that says Gmail. In this, I have our red arrow pointing toward it. So you click on where it says Gmail, and then we're going to proceed to step 2. What will happen then is a little window will pop up, and it's assuming that you already have a Gmail account, which is why it's offering you the option to enter your email address and sign in. But if you look down a little bit lower where I have the red arrow, you'll see that there's the option to create an account. So we're going to click on Create Account. Okay, so now on to step 3. This is the part where you're going to have to enter some information. So you fill out the fields that Google is asking you for here, your first and last name, and then what it's going to do is it's going to ask you to come up with a username. Sometimes it will suggest one for you. Um, but so remember that your username, when you're coming up with it, you want to think about what you want your username to do and how you want to use your email account. Your username identifies you to other people, so you might want to pick something that other people will recognize as you. You also want to pick something that's easy for you to remember, and then you want to think about how you want to use this. Are you going to be doing business with this account? In which case, you might not want to put, a funny name or some kind of joke or part of your pet's name in there. But if you're going to be using it to just contact friends and family, then those things might be totally fine. So you'll come up with your username, and you can see right here I have, just for an example, entered Jane Sample and the number 53, but you can see below it's also offering me some other options. And then if we look down below that, you're going to create your password. So with your password, the more unique it is, the better. You definitely don't want your password to be the word password or password123 or anything like that. Um, but the problem that we all run into is everything has a password nowadays. So how do you remember them all? You have to come up with something that's unique enough that somebody else can't guess it and therefore get into your account. But you also have to come up with something that you will remember. So the password that I have used here I have done kind of a play on the words sign me up. And for the letter I, I've used a 1 instead of the I. And then I've put an exclamation point at the end. Combining upper and lowercase letters and then numbers and special characters like your exclamation point will make it more unique and harder for other people to guess and therefore get into your account. There are several services that will remember your password for you, but for the most part, it's actually more secure to just write down what your passwords are, maybe in a notebook or on a sticky note on your desk, and just keep that with you. That's seems kind of counterintuitive, but it's actually a little bit easier and safer to keep track of your passwords that way, rather than just leaving yourself signed in all the time. Okay, so once you have entered that information, what Google is going to do is it's going to ask you to verify your phone number. So you enter your phone number, and then what Google will do is it will send you a text message with a verification code to the phone number that you've entered in that box. But if you don't have a cell phone or you just have a landline or for any other reason you can't receive texts, you can click the option on the next screen that says call instead. So you see over here in step number 5, if you are able to receive those text messages, you'll get that code in a text message and then you can enter it in the box after the letter G. But if you've entered that phone number and you can't get a text, then you can click that call instead option and they will call you and you can enter the code that way. Okay, so step 6. You're going to see on the next screen that opens that it is asking you to enter your phone number again. But note that this time it's optional. You don't have to put your phone number in at this point if you don't want to. Another thing that's optional right below that is they ask you to enter a second email address. Um, the reason why you might want to do that is so that you can, if for some reason you forget your passwords, lose your passwords, and you're locked out of your account, you might be able to get in and recover your account using that second email address. But note again that that's optional, especially if this is the very first email address that you're signing up for. You likely don't have another one that you can enter. It's something that you can always go back and do later. After that, you'll enter your birthday, and then you will select your gender from the drop-down list. So what's going to open next is a page that has Google's privacy policy and terms for this email address. It's good to read through and try to understand as much of that as you can, because they're telling you what kind of information they're gathering about you, and you want to make sure that you're okay with that. Um, and then once you've read the terms of service and the privacy agreement, you click on the button at the bottom that says I agree. Okay, so now you have set up your email, and what you're looking at on this screen is your inbox. You want to think of your inbox kind of like your mailbox. It has a list of all the different messages that you've received, and it's just basically like opening up your regular mailbox and looking inside to see what kind of letters you've received. So I want to start us out on the left-hand side of the screen, and then we'll work right, and I'll explain these different things that you're seeing. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you have this column that has that compose button, and then these different folders like the one that says inbox, which is what we're looking at right now. Whenever you open your email, you're always going to start out at your inbox with the messages that have arrived most recently. But then down below, you'll see some other options like things that you have sent already and drafts of emails that you've started writing but haven't sent yet. We're going to come back a little bit later and talk about those sent and drafts things in just a little bit. But for right now, let's focus on that inbox because that's always what's going to open first. So, in the middle of the screen, what you see are the messages that you have received. And like I said, they're listed in order of the most recent one first. So if we're looking at these different messages right here, we can see that I got an automated message from Google at 12:43 p.m. today. And then looking back, you can see that there are some other ones that are a little bit older from July 9th, July 7th, June 16th. And so when you open and look at a message, it stops being bold. So the ones that are in bold are ones that I haven't looked at yet. So I have looked at that very first one, but I haven't looked at these other ones. Okay, so now I want to draw your attention to these different tabs up at the top, which I've marked out with these red arrows. The first one is the one that we're looking in now. That is your primary inbox. So when we open, it's always going to open your inbox and it's always going to open this primary tab first. So, what Google and Gmail tries to do is it tries to sort out the kinds of messages that you get and tries to predict which ones are the most important to you. And it puts those in the primary folder. And then if we look to the next tab, social, it tries to separate out the ones that are maybe from a social media network like Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, any kind of social media network like that. And it puts all of those messages in that tab. And then the third one that they have preset is promotions. So it will try to take things that it thinks are ads or invitations to try a new service or something like that, and it puts those in that promotions tab. So it doesn't stop you from getting any of those messages, but it just tries to sort them in a way so that you can look at the most important ones first in that primary folder. It's not perfect, but it tries to keep you organized in that way. So let's see that process of opening an email message in action. What I am going to do here is I'm going to click on this message that I haven't opened yet. You can see it's in bold. And I can use this bar over on the right to slide down to the bottom of the message and then back up to the top again. And that's the basics of how you open an email message. Okay, so let's say that you've opened an email address. Maybe you got something from a family member and you would like to reply to that email address and give them some information in return. So, what you want to do with the email that you have opened and have read is at the top of that message, you'll see a little picture of an arrow and a box below it that says reply. So, if you click on that, if you click on that arrow or reply box, what will pop up is a little box where you can type in your reply message. And what will happen is it will automatically have the address of the person that you're replying to in the to field. So you don't have to put that in. You don't have to put in that it's from you. Your email takes care of all of that already. And so then in the blank space below, you can type your response. And then when you're done, you click the send button. So let's see that in action too. All right, so I'm going to click the reply, and then you can see that email address is still in the field, and that I can type anything that I want in this field down below here. See where the cursor is flashing? That's where I can type. Here we go. Here is where you can type a response. And then what we're going to do is click on send. And it says message sent. So that's it. Another option that you might want is to forward an email message. So let's say, for example, that you got an email message from one family member and you want to forward it to another family member. Maybe they had some really great pictures in there that you want to share. So to the right of that option where it says reply, you see three little dots. And so if you click on those, it opens up some other options. You see reply is at the top, but there's also forward. And so what forward does is instead of sending it back to the person that sent that message to you, it allows you to send that very same message on to another person. So what will happen when you click forward is you'll see that that to field will be empty. So unlike reply, where we already know who you're replying to, with forward, we don't yet know who you want to send that message to. So that's why that field is blank when that new message first pops up. And you can type in the email address of the person that you want to forward your email message to. You will see below where it says forwarded message and says, who it came from, when it arrived, but you also have the option to enter a little bit of a message right above that. So, for example, in our example with maybe one family member sent you some photos that you want to send to another family member, you could type in there, here are those great photos that Aunt Sally sent to us. And then again, you would click send. Okay, so now we've talked about replying to and forwarding email messages, but let's say that you want to create your very own email message from scratch. So what you want to do is in that left-hand column, right above where it says inbox, you see a little button that says compose. And so what you want to do, if you want to write a new email, is click that button that says compose. A box will pop out and you'll see some blank fields in there. You'll see one that says to, one that says subject, and then an area for you to type in your message. So in the to field, you enter the recipient's email address, who you want to send it to. In the subject field, you enter what the email is about. So you don't want to type long full sentences in this part. You just want to give a brief idea of what it's about. So again, if we're talking about forwarding, if we're talking about sending photos to family members, you might say 4th of July photos in your subject field. And then down below, that's where you type your message. Usually you format it more or less in the same way that you would a letter, although people are generally a little less formal when writing emails than we are when writing letters. Um, so one tip that I will give for that is that sometimes one thing that we forget to carry over from the way we write a letter is to break things up into different paragraphs. So sometimes we'll start typing an email and we'll get going on a thought and we'll go really, really long. And then when the person gets that, it's kind of hard for them to read. So when you're typing an email, don't forget to, break up what you're saying into different paragraphs because it's a little easier for us to read that way. And then you might want to put your name at the bottom. Although, again, sometimes emails are a little less formal and people don't sign off on them in the same way that they do as letters, but it's still nice. And then when you're done, you click the send button at the bottom of that box. So another question that I get frequently when we're talking about sending emails is how to attach a file to an email message. This could be a Word document such as a resume or a photo. Really, this process is going to be more or less the same for any kind of regular document that you might want to attach to an email. So in this example that I have below, what we're attaching is a resume. So I have put I have begun a new email message, the same as in the last slide. I have put the recipient's email address in the to field, the same as the last slide. For the subject, I've said my resume, because that sort of quickly sums up what this email message is going to be about. And then I have a message to the person that I'm sending it to about what is in this email, notifying them that there's an attachment so that they know to look for it, and then signing off. So the way that we're going to attach a file to this email is by clicking on this little icon at the bottom of the new message box that looks like a paperclip. So that paperclip icon is the one that you use for attaching a file to an email. So if you click on that, what will happen is a dialog box will open, like the one that I have here on the right-hand side of the screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the document that you want to attach. So pretty frequently when I have a document that I know I want to attach to an email, I'll save it to my desktop, at least at first while I'm trying to attach it, and then later I'll move it to another location. So for example, in this scenario, if maybe I had a file on my computer that was all about resumes and job applications and things like that, I might go put it in that job applications and resumes folder after I do what I needed to do right here. But pretty often, like I was saying, I'll save that document to the desktop just so that it's easy to find right at first. So what we'll do in this box is this is going to help us navigate and find the document that we want to attach. So let's start on the left-hand side of this box here where I have my first arrow. It is pointing to the desktop location in that box. And you'll see down below that there's some other different locations that you could look in to get other kinds of files. For example, documents might be another popular one. And so when you click on that location on the left-hand side, then the different things that are in that location will show up on that middle screen where I have that second arrow. You want to select the document that you want to attach. So I've just named it sample document here. And so you would click once on that document. Down below at the very bottom of that box, you'll see that file name appear in the blank field. So see where it says sample document. And then the last thing that you would do is you would click open. And so what will happen then is you'll probably see a little loading bar or something else, or perhaps a turning wheel or something else indicating that your computer is thinking. And then when it's done, what will happen is the name of that document and then the size of the document in parentheses will show up at the bottom of that email message. And so that's how you know that the document or image or whatever kind of file it is that you wanted to attach has been successfully attached. And so then you would do the same thing that you would do when sending any other message. You would click send. Okay, so earlier I said that we were going to talk a little bit more about checking emails that you've already sent and also looking at drafts, which are emails that you've started writing but haven't quite finished and haven't sent yet. So in this example that I have here on this screen, we're looking at our drafts folder. So these are things that I've begun writing but haven't finished and haven't sent yet. So the way that you get to your drafts folder is again on that left-hand side of the screen beneath where it says compose and inbox, you see that one of those options is drafts. And when you click on that category, it turns bold. And you'll also notice that there's a number next to that category, which in this case is 1, which means that I have one draft of an email that I'm still working on. And so what happens when I click drafts is it shows the different drafts that I have. So here I have the email that we started writing about resumes saved in drafts. And you'll see right up above it, it says in red draft, so that you know that you haven't finished and sent that yet. And then in order to open that draft and continue working on it, you would click on those words in the same way that you would with a new message in your inbox. And then you would go through the same kind of process to look at your sent emails. You would click on that category and you could look at emails that you have already sent in the past. Let's also see that process in action. So here we are. I'm going to click on drafts. You see that message that we haven't sent yet. I'm going to click on it. And you can see that message opens right up again, and we can begin working on it. All right, so the last thing that I'd like to talk with you about today is signing out of your account. So this may not be quite as necessary at home, although it's generally a good practice to sign out of your email when you're done so that other people can't come behind you and get into your email account. But it's very important when you're in a public place, like we are in the library, using your email there. You want to make sure that you sign out of your account. So the way that you sign out of a Gmail account is in the top right-hand side of the screen, you see a little circle that has your initial in it, or the initial that corresponds to your email address. So my email account in this instance is Jane Sample, so that's why there's a J inside that circle. And so you click on that circle, and this dialog box pops up. It has your email address, and then down there, the last option is sign out. So you click sign out, and you are ready to go on to the next thing. If you'd like to learn more about email, I have some websites that I would recommend to you. One of them is called GCF Learn Free, and the other one is called Tech Boomers. Those both have other tutorials about email in general, but also about some more specific topics such as setting up a secure password, also attaching files, or maybe deleting a message. So if you'd like to learn more, I would suggest going to those websites as well.